Tonight we're getting answers, or trying to anyway, about federal program cuts. Ever since January, we've fielded questions from curious viewers wondering if certain initiatives are on the chopping block. Like Matt, who asked us, are federal budget cuts to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service going to result in the curtailing of sea lamprey treatments on Lake Champlain? It's a timely question because just this morning, wildlife officials indicated a long-running fish stocking program is ending, in part because of that lamprey program. But getting answers about whether it would be spared the axe was a frustrating task. These yearling lake trout seen in video shared Friday by Vermont Fish and Wildlife are the last ones to be raised and released from the fish hatchery in Grand Isle.
Here we go.
That's because Friday, U.S. Fish and Wildlife says decades of efforts paid off, and the population in Lake Champlain of lake trout has been restored. Vermont Fisheries Program Manager Margaret Murphy calls it a huge success story.
To be honest, took us all a bit by surprise how quickly it's actually happening.
That's because, despite decades of work dating back to the 1950s, only in the last 10 years have they seen lake trout eggs hatched in the wild mature into adult fish.
We're not exactly sure what has changed to allow this to happen.
But she and others point to efforts to control invasive sea lamprey. The parasitic fish prey on lake trout. And so in 1990, agencies in Vermont, New York, and at the federal level launched the Sea Lamprey Control Program to try to bring their numbers down. Murphy credits it for fewer wounded and dead fish.
I think the lamprey program's critical.
With the now stable population, the stocking is stopping after this spring. But fisheries biologist Bernie Pientka says the Edweed Fish Hatchery will still be raising other species and be ready in case they need to reverse course and stock lake trout again.
And if the situation develops and the conditions change, we'd be ready to return to stocking.
But I found the future of the Sea Lamprey Control Program, which generated some controversy over questions about its environmental impact, remains unclear. When I asked U.S. Fish and Wildlife if they'd be cutting the lamprey treatments, they gave me a generic statement about how under the Trump administration they are eliminating wasteful programs, cutting unnecessary costs, and ensuring that every dollar serves a clear purpose. I followed up to ask if the lamprey program fell under their definition of wasteful programs and did not hear back. So, in the absence of a clear answer, can we infer that the lamprey program is considered necessary based on the success of the lake trout restoration? Perhaps. In Friday's announcement, U.S. Fish and Wildlife spends paragraphs making the case for how instrumental the lamprey treatments have been in restoring the trout population, noting successful reestablishment of a wild lake trout population would not have been possible without strong measures to control the invasive species, and pointing out that lampricide treatments, physical barriers, and trapping efforts have helped bring down the lamprey woundings on fish from a whopping 99 per 100 lake trout in 2006 to just 23 per 100 in 2022. And that has held steady. And saying continued control of this invasive species will support not only a healthy fish population, but a robust fishing industry. They say for every dollar invested in the Sea Lamprey Control Program, $3.50 is returned to the economy. And that recreational fishing on Lake Champlain generates $474 million a year for the economy. But again, nowhere in the announcement does it explicitly say whether the Sea Lamprey Control Program will continue. Vermont Fish and Wildlife pointed me to the feds for questions about the program's future. But Murphy says
continuing those efforts and maintaining that sea lamprey program is vital, I think, for the continued success.
That generic answer I got about the lamprey program's future is a similar response we've gotten to many inquiries about changes to different federal programs, indicating it's too early to tell which ones might be slashed to save money. If you have a question for us, send us an email at gettinganswers@WCAX.com, and we'll see what we can find out for you.
Meanwhile,